There's a woman sitting on her bedroom floor at 2 a.m. She's not crying. Not anymore. She's just tired. Tired of hoping. Tired of watching everyone else's life move forward while hers feels stuck on pause. She's tried everything. New job applications, new diets, new routines that lasted 4 days. And then, almost by accident, she opens her phone and reads a sentence that stops her cold. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. She doesn't fully believe it. Not yet. But something in her, some quiet, stubborn part, decides to test it, just for 30 days. This isn't a story about magic. It's not a story about wishing on stars and waking up rich. It's a story about what happens when a person decides to pay attention to their own mind for the first time in their life. Some of what she discovers is backed by real psychology. Some of it is belief, unproven and worth questioning. We're going to walk through all of it, honestly. No hype, no promises we can't keep. By the end of this video, you'll understand what manifestation actually is, where it came from, what science says about it, and, if you choose to try it, exactly how to start tonight. Stay with me, because the next 20 minutes might change how you see your own thoughts forever. But before we go further, we need to answer the most basic question of all. What is manifestation, actually? Let's strip away the mysticism for a second. At its core, manifestation is a simple idea. Your thoughts, beliefs, and focused attention shape the actions you take, and those actions shape your results. That's it. That's the seed of the whole concept. Some people believe it goes deeper than that. They believe thought itself carries an energy that reaches out into the world and pulls matching circumstances toward you. This is a spiritual and philosophical claim. It is not something modern science has proven. But here's what's interesting. Even without the mystical layer, there's something real happening underneath. Think about a man who decides he wants to run a marathon. The moment he commits to that goal, really commits, his brain starts doing something quietly remarkable. He starts noticing running shoes in shop windows he walked past 100 times before. He starts noticing other runners in his neighborhood. He starts noticing marathon training plans mentioned in conversations. Nothing new appeared in his environment. His brain simply started filtering for it. Psychologists call this the reticular activating system, a part of your brain that filters incoming information and prioritizes what matches your current focus. Manifestation, at a basic level, uses this system on purpose. You decide what you want. You hold it in your attention, consistently, on purpose. And your brain starts doing what brains do, filtering, noticing, connecting dots you would have missed otherwise. Is that the same as the universe rearranging itself for you? That's a matter of belief, not evidence. But is it a real, documented psychological phenomenon that focused attention changes what you notice and act on? Yes, that part is well established. So when people say a manifestation works, what's often happening is a blend of two things: a belief system that gives people hope, structure, and motivation, a real cognitive mechanism that changes behavior once attention is directed with intention. We're going to be honest about which is which throughout this video. 'Cause here's the thing. You don't need to believe in mystical energy to benefit from focused intention. But you also deserve to know the difference between a psychological tool and a cosmic guarantee. Now, this idea didn't appear out of nowhere. To really understand manifestation, we need to go back, way back, to where this concept was actually born. Picture 19th century New England, factories rising, railroads stretching across a country still finding its identity. And in the middle of all that industrial noise, a quiet spiritual movement was taking shape called New Thought. New Thought believed something radical for its time, that mind was the primary reality, and that changing your thinking could change your health, your circumstances, even your destiny. A clockmaker turned healer named Phineas Quimby is often credited as one of its earliest voices. He believed illness often had roots in a person's beliefs, and that changing those beliefs could support the healing process. From there, New Thought split into different branches. Some became religious movements, others became self-help philosophy. Fast forward to 1906. A writer named William Walker Atkinson published a book literally called Thought Vibration, or The Law of Attraction in the Thought World. This might be the very first time the phrase law of attraction appeared in print. Then in 1937, a man named Napoleon Hill released a book that would go on to sell over 100 million copies. Think and Grow Rich. Hill interviewed some of the wealthiest men of his era and distilled their mindset habits into principles anyone could apply. His central claim: whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That single sentence became the backbone of decades of self-help content that followed. Then came the modern explosion. In 2006, a documentary called The Secret introduced millions of people worldwide to the law of attraction in a single, accessible package. It became a cultural phenomenon. Oprah featured it. It topped bestseller lists, and it also drew serious criticism from scientists and skeptics who argued it oversimplified, and in some cases misrepresented, how physics and psychology actually work. Here's an important historical thread you should notice. Manifestation isn't one static idea. It's evolved for over 150 years, absorbing ideas from religion, philosophy, psychology, and pop culture along the way. Which means when someone tells you, this is exactly what manifestation is, they're usually only describing one branch of a much bigger tree. Understanding that history matters because it helps you separate the timeless psychological truths, like the power of focused attention, from the specific cultural packaging of any one era. Now let's talk about the single most famous and most controversial idea to come out of this entire history: the law of attraction itself. Here's the law of attraction in its simplest form. Like attracts like. Positive thoughts are believed to attract positive experiences. Negative thoughts are believed to attract negative experiences. It sounds almost like gravity for your mind. Let's be completely clear about something important. There is no scientific evidence that thoughts emit a measurable energy that pulls matching events toward you from the physical world. This is a metaphysical belief, not a proven law of physics, despite the name. So why do so many people swear it works? Let's look at a relatable example. Imagine two people apply for the same promotion. One walks into every interaction expecting to be overlooked. She apologizes before she speaks. She undersells her ideas in meetings. She assumes the promotion will go to someone else, so she barely mentions her interest in it. The other believes, deeply, that she's the right person for the role. She speaks up in meetings. She volunteers for visible projects. She mentions her career goals to her manager directly, more than once. Who do you think gets noticed? This isn't the universe rearranging itself. This is confidence-changing behavior and behavior-changing outcomes. Psychologists refer to something related called the self-fulfilling prophecy. When a belief about the future changes present behavior in ways that make that belief more likely to come true. There's also confirmation bias at play. Once you believe something is true, your brain starts collecting evidence that supports it and quietly ignoring evidence that contradicts it. So if you believe good things are coming, you notice the good things. If you believe you're unlucky, you notice every inconvenience and file it under C. I knew it. None of this proves thoughts control external reality, but it does prove something almost as powerful. Thoughts control your behavior, your posture, your tone of voice, your willingness to take risks. And all of those things absolutely shape your results. Here's a boundary worth naming clearly. The law of attraction, taken literally, would suggest a person's illness, poverty, or tragedy was caused by their own negative thoughts. That idea can be harmful. It ignores systemic barriers, chance, and circumstances entirely outside anyone's control. A more grounded way to use this idea: your mindset shapes your choices. Your choices shape your momentum. And momentum, over time, shapes your life. That's not magic. That's psychology, dressed in a more poetic name. So if it's not magic, where exactly does this attraction actually happen inside you? The answer takes us somewhere deeper: your subconscious mind. Your mind operates on two levels. There's your conscious mind, the part reading these words right now, making decisions, reasoning things through. And there's your subconscious mind, a vast, quiet processor running in the background of everything you do. Here's a number that tends to surprise people. Some researchers estimate your brain processes millions of pieces of sensory information every second, but your conscious awareness can only handle a tiny fraction of that, often cited as around 40 to 50 pieces per second, though exact figures vary by study. The rest, your subconscious mind handles it. It controls your heartbeat, your breathing, your habits, your gut reactions, the way you flinch before you even register a loud sound. And here's where manifestation theory gets interesting. Proponents believe your subconscious mind also stores your deepest beliefs about yourself. And those beliefs quietly drive your behavior, often without your conscious permission. Let's use an example. A man consciously wants financial success. He says it out loud. He reads books about it. He tells his friends about his goals. But somewhere in his childhood, money was always tight, always a source of arguments, always tied to shame. His subconscious mind absorbed a belief early on: money causes pain. Money is dangerous, better to keep it small. So every time an opportunity for real growth appears, a promotion, an investment, a bold career move, something inside him hesitates. He self-sabotages without knowing why. He calls it bad luck. It might actually be an old subconscious pattern running quietly in the background. This concept that unconscious beliefs shape behavior has real support in psychology, particularly through research on implicit beliefs, cognitive schemas, and self-concept. These are documented psychological structures that absolutely influence behavior, often outside conscious awareness. What's less proven is the specific manifestation claim that you can reprogram your subconscious using repetition alone, and that doing so will directly alter external outcomes like winning a job or attracting a specific person. What is supported? Repeated thought patterns can shape self perception over time, and self perception influences confidence, risk taking, and follow through. So here's the honest takeaway: your subconscious mind is real, its influence on your behavior is real. Changing deep seated beliefs is genuinely possible, though it usually takes more than repeating a phrase a few times. It often takes consistent practice, sometimes therapy, sometimes new experiences that contradict the old belief directly. This is also exactly why manifestation techniques like affirmations and visualization exist. They're attempts to speak directly to that subconscious layer. Let's start with the most cinematic of these tools, the one where you literally close your eyes and rehearse the life you want. Let's talk about visualization. In 1984, Soviet sports scientists ran an experiment that would quietly influence Olympic training for decades. Athletes were split into four groups. One group did 100% physical training. Another did 75% physical training and 25% mental visualization. Another did 50-50. And the last group did 25% physical training and 75% visualization. The results surprised almost everyone. The group that spent 75% of their time visualizing performed better than the group that trained entirely physically. Now, it's worth noting this specific study has been referenced widely in motivational content, but is difficult to verify in original form, and some of its details may be exaggerated through repetition over the years. Treat the exact numbers with healthy skepticism. But here's what's absolutely rigorously supported by real, peer-reviewed sports psychology research. Mental rehearsal improves performance. This is one of the few manifestation-adjacent claims with strong scientific backing. When you vividly imagine performing an action, a golf swing, a piano piece, a public speech, your brain activates many of the same neural pathways it would use if you were actually doing it. This is sometimes called neuromuscular facilitation, or simply mental practice, and it's used by elite athletes, surgeons, and musicians around the world, not because of mystical energy, but because the brain doesn't fully distinguish between vividly imagined action and real rehearsal. Let's bring this into an everyday story. A young woman has a job interview in 2 days for a position she desperately wants. She's anxious. Her mind keeps rehearsing failure, stumbling over words, going blank, watching the interviewer's face fall. Instead, she tries something different. Every night before bed, she closes her eyes and imagines the interview going well. She pictures the room. She imagines the interviewer's first question. She rehearses her answer, calmly, clearly in her mind. She does this 5 nights in a row. On interview day, something has shifted. The moment doesn't feel unfamiliar anymore. She's already been there, at least in her mind. Her nervous system recognizes the situation instead of panicking at it. Manifestation practitioners would say she attracted the good outcome. A psychologist would say she reduced her anxiety through mental rehearsal and improved her performance through pre-practiced familiarity. Both explanations point toward the same practical advice. Visualize what you want, specifically and often. Here's how to actually do it, step by step. Sit or lie somewhere quiet. Close your eyes. Pick one specific scene tied to your goal. not the whole life, just one moment. Engage your senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What does it feel like in your body? Notice your emotional state in the visualization. Confidence, relief, joy. Let yourself feel it, even briefly. Hold the image for 2 to 5 minutes, no longer needed. Consistency beats duration. One caution worth naming: visualization works best when paired with real preparation and action. Visualizing a marathon finish line doesn't replace training. Visualizing a successful business doesn't replace building one. Think of visualization as mental rehearsal for a performance you still have to actually give. Visualization speaks to your mind in pictures, but there's another tool that speaks to your mind in words. One you've probably heard of and maybe even quietly rolled your eyes at. Let's talk about affirmations. I am confident. I am worthy. I am successful. If you've ever said something like this out loud, alone in a mirror, feeling slightly ridiculous, you're not alone. Millions of people have stood exactly where you stood. Affirmations are short, present tense statements repeated with the intention of reshaping your self-talk and, over time, your self-belief. Here's the honest scientific picture, because affirmations are one of the most researched manifestation tools out there. A well-known body of research on self-affirmation theory, developed by social psychologist Claude Steele, has found that affirming your core values can reduce stress and improve performance under pressure, particularly in situations involving self-doubt or stereotype threat. However, and this matters, most of that research focuses on values-based affirmations. I care deeply about my family, or I value honesty, not the I am rich, I am famous style affirmations popularized by manifestation content. There's also research suggesting that for people with low self-esteem, repeating extremely positive statements that feel untrue can actually backfire, making them feel worse, not better. Your brain notices the gap between the statement and your current belief, and sometimes argues back. So what actually works? Let's look at two people trying affirmations for the first time. The first stands in front of a mirror and says, I am a millionaire, while her bank account says otherwise. Some part of her brain immediately objects. She feels like a fraud. She quits after 3 days. The second tries something slightly different. Instead of a statement that feels false, she picks one that feels like a stretch, but not a lie. I am becoming more confident every day. Or, I am capable of learning what I need to succeed. These feel achievable, not delusional. Her brain doesn't fight back the same way. This is sometimes called bridge affirmations, statements that bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be without demanding your brain believe something wildly untrue in a single sentence. Here's a practical way to write affirmations that actually hold up psychologically. Keep them present tense, but believable. I am learning to trust myself rather than I am the most confident person alive. Tie them to actions you're actually taking. I am building a healthier body one workout at a time. Say them with feeling, not just repetition. Emotion matters more than volume of repetition. Pair them with evidence. After saying an affirmation, mentally note one small piece of proof from your recent life that supports it. Even slightly, there's a woman who wanted to become a public speaker but felt crushing anxiety every time she imagined a microphone in her hand. She didn't jump to, I am a world-class speaker. She started with, I am someone who is learning to speak with more confidence. Small, honest, believable. 18 months later, she was hosting workshops for 40 people at a time. Was that affirmations alone? No. It was affirmations, paired with practice, paired with actual stage time, paired with consistency. That combination is what created the shift, not the words in isolation. Affirmations shift how you talk to yourself. But there's a manifestation tool that shifts something even more fundamental. The emotional lens you see your whole life through. Let's talk about gratitude. Here's a strange but well-documented finding in psychology. What you appreciate tends to appreciate, not in a mystical sense, in a measurable, researched sense. Dr. Robert Emmons, one of the leading gratitude researchers in the world, has run multiple studies showing that people who kept regular gratitude journals reported higher levels of well-being, optimism, and even fewer physical health complaints compared to control groups. This is one of the most scientifically solid pieces of the entire manifestation toolkit. Gratitude practice genuinely, measurably improves mood and outlook. That part isn't up for debate. What manifestation adds, the layer that goes beyond current scientific proof, is the belief that gratitude actively attracts more abundance into your external circumstances, as if appreciation itself pulls resources toward you. That specific causal claim remains unproven, but the psychological benefits of gratitude are real enough that it's worth practicing regardless of which belief system you subscribe to. Let's tell a story that shows why this matters. A man loses his job unexpectedly. For weeks, his mental world narrows into a tunnel of scarcity. Every thought is about what's missing, what's gone, what might not come back. A friend suggests something simple. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every single night, no matter how small. He resists at first. It feels almost insulting given his situation, but he tries it anyway, out of desperation more than belief. Night 1. I'm grateful my apartment is warm. I'm grateful my sister called today. I'm grateful I still have coffee in the cupboard. Small things, almost embarrassingly small, but something shifts over the following weeks. He starts noticing more small things. His mental tunnel widens, just slightly, every single day. And here's the part that matters most. A wider mental lens made him more resourceful. He noticed a job posting he might have scrolled past in his earlier panic. He reached out to a former colleague he might have been too proud to contact before. He had, quite literally, more mental bandwidth to notice opportunity because he wasn't drowning entirely in scarcity thinking. Gratitude didn't magically produce the job. His actions did. But gratitude changed his internal state enough to make those actions possible. This is a documented psychological pattern known as broaden and build theory, developed by psychologist Barbara Fredrickson. Positive emotions, including gratitude, appear to broaden your thinking and expand the range of thoughts and actions that come to mind, while negative emotional states tend to narrow your focus into threat response and tunnel vision. Here's a simple practice you can start tonight. Every evening, write down 3 specific things from that day you're grateful for. Be specific. I'm grateful for the way sunlight came through my kitchen window this morning. Works better than a vague, I'm grateful for my home. Include at least one thing about yourself, a choice you made, a moment you handled well. Do this for 30 days and notice what happens to your baseline mood. Many people report a genuine, felt shift by day 14 or so. Gratitude changes how you feel about where you are. But manifestation isn't just about feeling good in the present, it's about moving somewhere new. And that requires knowing exactly what you're moving toward. Let's talk about goal setting. Here's an uncomfortable truth about manifestation culture. A lot of people fail at it not because the concept doesn't work, but because their goals were never clear enough to act on in the first place. I want to be successful is not a goal, it's a feeling wearing the costume of a goal. Psychologist Edwin Locke, one of the most cited researchers in the field of motivation, developed what's now called goal setting theory. His decades of research consistently found that specific, challenging goals lead to significantly higher performance than vague goals like do your best. This is one of the strongest, most replicated findings in all of organizational psychology. It's not controversial. It's not spiritual. It's just true. So let's take manifestation's vague, dreamy language and translate it into something your brain can actually use. Instead of, I want to manifest wealth, try, I want to increase my monthly income by $1,000 within the next 6 months through a combination of a raise and freelance work. Instead of, I want to manifest my dream body, try, I want to be able to run 5 kilometers without stopping within 90 days. Notice the difference. The second version in each pair gives your brain something to actually grab onto. A direction, a deadline, a way to measure progress. There's a popular framework called SMART goals that fits perfectly here. Specific, exactly what do you want? Measurable, how will you know you've achieved it? Achievable, is this realistic given your current resources and timeline? Relevant, does this actually matter to your deeper values? Time-bound, when, specifically, do you want this by? Let's watch this play out through a story. A young man spends 2 years saying he wants to manifest a better life. He visualizes vaguely. He writes vague affirmations. Nothing changes, and he starts to believe manifestation is fake. Then a mentor asks him one blunt question. What does a better life actually look like, in specific detail, 6 months from now? He struggles to answer at first, but slowly he gets specific. He wants to move out of his parents' house. He wants a job paying at least $50,000 a year. He wants to feel physically strong enough to hike a specific trail near his home. Suddenly, his visualization has an actual target. His affirmations have actual content. His gratitude practice has actual progress to notice. Within a year, he's hit 2 of the 3 goals completely and made real progress on the third. Was this manifestation? Or was this simply what happens when a human being finally gives their brain a clear target instead of a vague wish? Probably both, honestly, because clarity itself is one of manifestation's most underrated tools. You cannot move purposefully toward a destination you've never actually named. Here's a practical goal-setting exercise to use tonight. Pick one area of your life, career, health, relationships, or personal growth. Write the vague version of your wish first. I want to be happier. Now rewrite it using the SMART framework as specifically as you can. Break it into one action you can take this week. Clear goals give you direction, but direction alone doesn't move you forward. Momentum does. And momentum comes from something manifestation content rarely talks about honestly enough: habits and consistent action. Here's the part of manifestation that gets left out of most glossy videos because it's less exciting than vision boards and candles. None of this works without action. Let's be direct about this because it matters. There is no credible evidence that thought alone, without corresponding action, changes external circumstances. Visualizing a job doesn't apply for it. Affirming wealth doesn't deposit money into your account. Gratitude doesn't submit your resume. What all of these tools actually do, at their most useful, is prepare your mind to take consistent action and make that action easier to sustain. This is where habits come in. Author James Clear, in his research-backed book Atomic Habits, makes a point that connects perfectly here. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. A goal is a direction. A habit is the vehicle that actually gets you there. Let's tell a story that shows the gap between wishing and doing. Two women both want to write a book. Both visualize themselves as published authors. Both keep gratitude journals. Both say daily affirmations about their creative ability. One stops there. She feels good after her morning routine, closes her journal, and goes about her day exactly as before. The other adds one habit. She writes 300 words every single day, no matter what. Some days it's easy. Some days those 300 words feel like pulling teeth, but she does it anyway. 1 year later, one of them has a completed manuscript. The other has a very consistent, well-maintained journal of affirmations and no book. The difference wasn't belief. Both believed equally hard. The difference was a repeated, specific action. This connects to a psychological concept called self-efficacy, developed by psychologist Albert Bandura. Your belief in your own ability to execute the behaviors needed to reach a goal. And here's the key insight. Self-efficacy isn't built by thinking positively. It's built by small, repeated wins. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a tiny one, your brain quietly updates its model of who you are. I am someone who follows through, becomes a belief built from evidence, not just repetition of a phrase. This is really where manifestation and habit science shake hands. The mindset work, visualization, affirmations, gratitude, creates motivation and reduces resistance. The habits create the actual movement. Here's how to build a manifestation-aligned habit that sticks. Choose one micro-action tied to your goal. Something so small it feels almost too easy. Attach it to an existing habit. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write my goal down. Track it visually. A simple check mark on a calendar works. Celebrate the small win immediately, even quietly, in your own mind. Let consistency matter more than intensity. 5 minutes daily beats 1 heroic hour once a week. Manifestation without action is a wish. Manifestation with action is a plan wearing a more beautiful name. Now that you understand the real tools, visualization, affirmations, gratitude, goals, and habits, let's talk about where most beginners quietly go wrong, so you don't have to learn these lessons the hard way. Let's walk through the mistakes almost everyone makes when they first start this practice, including, statistically, probably you, at least once. Mistake 1. Vague desires. I want more money. I want to be happy. These are feelings, not targets. Without specificity, your brain has nothing to filter for, no clear action to take. We covered this in the goal setting section, but it bears repeating because it's the single most common failure point. Mistake 2. Confusing hoping with doing. There's a story about a man who wanted a new job. He visualized it every night. He wrote affirmations every morning, but he never actually updated his resume or applied anywhere. Months passed. Nothing changed. He grew frustrated with manifestation itself, when the real issue was that thought never turned into action. Mistake 3. Attaching to a rigid timeline. Manifestation content often promises fast results. 30 days, 21 days, sometimes even 3 days. Real change, especially meaningful life change, often takes longer than a viral video suggests. Impatience causes many beginners to quit right before momentum would have built. Mistake 4. Treating negative emotion as failure. Some manifestation teachings suggest that feeling doubt, fear, or sadness blocks your manifestation. This can create a harmful cycle where people suppress real emotions, then feel guilty for having them, which often makes things worse, not better. Emotional suppression is not the same as positive thinking, and research on suppression generally shows it backfires over time. Feeling your emotions fully, then choosing your next action deliberately, tends to work far better than pretending to feel good when you don't. Mistake 5. All mindset, no strategy. There's a version of this practice that becomes an excuse to avoid uncomfortable, practical work. It feels safer to visualize a business than to actually register one. It feels safer to affirm confidence than to have the difficult conversation. Manifestation should support your action, not replace it as a comfortable substitute. Mistake 6. Comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Social media is full of manifestation success stories, often without the years of unseen effort behind them. This creates unrealistic expectations about timeline and difficulty, which leads to premature giving up. Mistake 7. Believing setbacks mean you're doing it wrong. A rejected job application, a failed first attempt, a slow month. These get reframed by beginners as proof the whole practice isn't working. In reality, setbacks are a normal part of literally every goal pursuit method ever studied, manifestation-based or not. Here's a story that ties several of these together. A woman decided to manifest a new relationship. She visualized meeting someone. She wrote affirmations about being worthy of love. But she never changed her routine. She stayed home every weekend, avoided new social settings, and kept using the same dating app profile from 3 years earlier that barely described her interests. 3 months in, frustrated, she almost quit entirely. A friend gently pointed out the gap. Her mindset had shifted, but her actions hadn't moved an inch. She updated her profile. She said yes to a friend's invitation to a pottery class she'd been putting off for a year. 4 months later, she met someone at the pottery class, not on the app. Was that the universe delivering? Or was that a woman who finally paired inner clarity with outer action and put herself in rooms where new outcomes were actually possible? Either way, the lesson is identical. Belief creates readiness. Action creates results. Now that you know exactly where beginners stumble, let's put everything together into something you can actually use starting tonight. A simple, practical, daily manifestation routine. Here's a routine designed to take roughly 15 to 20 minutes a day. No candles required, no special crystals, just consistency. Morning practice, 8 to 10 minutes. Gratitude, 2 minutes. Before you check your phone, write down 3 specific things you're grateful for. Specificity matters more than quantity. Visualization. 3 to 4 minutes. Close your eyes. Picture one specific scene tied to your current goal. Engage your senses. Notice how it feels in your body, not just what it looks like. Affirmation, 1 to 2 minutes. Say 2 or 3 believable, present tense statements out loud. Not fantasy statements, bridge statements that stretch you without triggering disbelief. One committed action, 2 minutes to write, then go do it. Write down the single most important action you'll take today toward your goal. Not 5 things, one thing. Throughout the day, notice moments of progress, however small, and mentally acknowledge them when self-doubt or fear arises. Don't suppress it. Name it. Feel it briefly, and gently redirect your attention back to your intention. Evening practice, 5 to 7 minutes. Reflection, 2 minutes. Did you take your committed action? If yes, notice how that felt. If no, notice without harsh judgment and choose again tomorrow. Gratitude, round 2, 2 minutes. Write down one thing from today that went better than expected. Scripting, optional, 3 minutes. Some people enjoy writing a short journal entry as though their goal has already happened. If this feels inspiring rather than fake to you, try it. If it feels forced, skip it. Forced positivity tends to backfire, as we discussed earlier. Weekly check-in, 10 minutes once a week. Review your specific goal from the goal setting section. Ask honestly, what actions did I take this week that moved me closer? Adjust your approach based on what you're learning, not based on impatience. Here's a story of what this routine looks like in real life. A man in his mid-30s, recently divorced, feeling like his life had quietly stalled, started this exact routine on a random Tuesday. Nothing dramatic, no big turning point moment, just a decision to try it for 30 days. Week 1 felt awkward. He forgot the evening practice twice. His affirmations felt clumsy in his own mouth. Week 2, something small shifted. He noticed himself catching negative thought spirals earlier than before, redirecting them faster. By week 4, he'd taken more small actions toward rebuilding his social life and career than he had in the entire previous year combined. Not because of magic, but because his mind had spent 30 consecutive days practicing focus, gratitude, and follow through. That's the real promise of a routine like this. Not instant transformation. Compound change built one deliberate day at a time. Transition. By now you have the full toolkit, but you probably still have questions. The same ones almost every beginner asks. Let's answer them directly. How long does manifestation take to work? There's no fixed, universal timeline, and anyone promising a specific guaranteed number of days is oversimplifying a complex process. What tends to happen realistically? Mindset shifts often happen within a few weeks of consistent practice. External results depend heavily on the goal itself, the actions required, and factors outside your control. Financial goals, relationship goals, and health goals all move at different natural speeds. What if I don't believe in the law of attraction? Can this still work for me? Yes. You can use visualization, affirmations, gratitude, and goal setting purely as psychological tools without adopting any metaphysical belief at all. Many people use this exact toolkit under different names: mental rehearsal, positive self-talk, goal-setting frameworks, without ever calling it manifestation. Is manifestation the same as positive thinking? They overlap, but they're not identical. Positive thinking generally refers to maintaining an optimistic outlook, Manifestation, as a belief system, adds a causal claim that your thoughts actively shape external reality, not just your internal experience and behavior. You can practice positive thinking without buying into that causal claim. Can manifestation help with anxiety or depression? Some elements, gratitude practice, goal setting, visualization, have documented mental health benefits and are sometimes used within evidence-based therapeutic approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy. However, manifestation is not a substitute for professional mental health treatment. If you're dealing with persistent anxiety, depression, or emotional distress, please consider speaking with a licensed therapist or doctor alongside anything you try from this video. Why doesn't manifestation work for everyone the same way? Because outcomes depend on far more than mindset alone. Resources, timing, circumstances, systemic barriers, and plain chance all play a real role in anyone's results. Mindset can improve your odds and your resilience. It cannot override every external factor, and it's important not to blame yourself entirely if a specific outcome doesn't happen despite consistent effort. Do I need to believe 100% for it to work? Most practitioners suggest doubt is normal and doesn't automatically block progress. What matters more is consistent practice over perfect belief. Some of the people who benefit most start as skeptics who simply commit to trying the routine honestly for a set period. What's the difference between manifestation and just setting goals? Traditional goal setting focuses mainly on planning and action steps. Manifestation adds layers of emotional and subconscious work, visualization, gratitude, belief examination, on top of that same foundation. Think of manifestation as goal setting with an added emotional and psychological dimension, not a replacement for the practical planning goal setting requires. Can I manifest something for someone else, like healing a sick relative? There is no scientific evidence supporting the idea that focused thought can influence another person's health or free will outcomes from a distance. This is a claim entirely within belief and spirituality, unsupported by current research. If you're facing something like this, professional medical care and genuine emotional support for your loved one matter far more than any mental practice. You now have the complete beginner's map, the history, the psychology, the tools, the mistakes to avoid, and a real routine to start tonight. Let's bring it all together. Let's go back to that woman on the bedroom floor from the very beginning of this video. 30 days after that 2 a.m. moment, her life didn't look like a movie montage. There was no single dramatic before and after. But she'd started writing down 3 things she was grateful for every night. She'd started picturing herself handling hard conversations with more calm. She'd set one specific, measurable goal instead of a vague wish, and she'd taken one small action toward it. Every single day, even on the days she didn't feel like it. 30 days later, she hadn't transformed into someone unrecognizable. She'd simply become a slightly more focused, slightly more resilient version of the person she already was. And it turns out, that's usually how real change actually happens, not in a lightning bolt. In small, repeated choices that compound quietly over time. Manifestation, stripped of the parts that overpromise, is really this: deciding what you want with real clarity, using your mind deliberately to support that goal instead of undermine it, and backing all of it with consistent action in the real world. Believe in the mystical layer if it brings you comfort and meaning. That's a personal choice, and plenty of thoughtful people find real value in it. Or stick to the psychological layer alone if evidence matters most to you. Either way, the practical tools in this video work the same way, for the same underlying reasons. You don't need to wait for certainty to begin. You just need to be willing to try, honestly, for 30 days, the same way that woman on the floor did, not because she was sure it would work, but because she was tired of staying exactly where she was. Wherever you're starting from tonight, you now have a real map. Use it. If this video helped you see manifestation more clearly, the real tools, the honest science, and the beliefs worth questioning, you know exactly what to do next. Subscribe to Universe Allow, because this is only the beginning of the journey we're going to walk through together. See you in the next video.